Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to talk about my interview experiences at high frequency trading firms, hedge funds and market makers. In my 4.5 years of work experience, I have interviewed for a couple of trading firms and in this video I'll give a holistic view of what kind of questions I have encountered in their various rounds of interviews and online assessment tests. So let's jump into it. So before going into the actual content, one thing is that you should usually not keep your hopes very high when you are interviewing for HFT firms, because most of the times the chances are that you might get rejected because their interview process is insanely hard. And with rejections, like, some people feel they get demoralized, they do not focus on the path ahead. So don't do that, keep on preparing. Cracking these firms take a little time. Anyways, so let's jump into it. So mostly I have interviewed for Tower Research, WorldCon, Citadel, and there are other HFT firms as well and other market making firms, which I will keep anonymous at the moment. So most of the firms, what they do is that, like, first round of assessment is this online assessment test only. Some firms give a hacker rank test link. Some other company might give you some other online assessment platform link as well. But some companies, not every company takes their online assessment on HackerRank. Other companies might also give you a home assignment which you are supposed to complete in 1 or 2 weeks. So mostly I've seen that the questions are like this. There will be 2-3 coding questions, and then there will be MCQs, and time limited, usually 16 minutes or 90 minutes. So as I said, one part will be focused on DS algo. And regarding the MCQs, so mostly I've seen that MCQs are based on C++, standard template library, Python, data structures and algorithms, time and space complexity of common algorithms, computer architecture, computer networks, operating systems, Linux commands. And for trading roles, they are mostly on there are some probability, permutation and combination, puzzles, logical reasoning questions as well. And for senior roles, like, one of my friend, he had interviewed for one of the firm, and he had, like, at the moment of interviewing, I think he had more than 8-9 years of experience. So he also faced some subjective questions. He was actually supposed to write subjective answers for them, and I think they check it on their backend, and that test was also on HackerRank only. So these are the topics which you should be familiar with when you are giving the online assessment test of the online assessment test. And so like, some time back I had given the online assessment test for WorldCon. I had also talked about it in a previous video, but the thing is that a recruiter had reached out to me, and he was hiring for senior quantitative developer, and WorldCon's office is in Mumbai in India. And so I was interested in that particular opportunity, so I asked him to share the JD, and he had told me before that based on some other candidates' feedback, that the interview consists of 2 coding questions. Sorry, the online assessment consists of 2 coding questions, and then there are 6-7 MCQs. And he said that everyone was able to get all the MCQs correct and solve 1 coding question, but other coding question is very hard. It was a maths question. So I did some preparation before giving the test, and eventually I gave the test. So the format was that only 6 MCQs. MCQs were around C++, STL and time and space complexity, and there was 1 or 2 networking questions as well. Then there were 2 coding questions. Like, one coding question was very easy, I was able to solve it in 5-10 minutes. Other question was very, very hard, and it took me almost the entire time of duration of the online assessment test to solve that particular question. I think I submitted it at the end when there were only like 2-3 minutes remaining for the test to finish. So I told my recruiter that I took that test, and the test format was same as what he had shared, and I was able to solve all 6 questions. Okay, there were 6 questions. It means there were 4 MCQ. Yeah, so all 6 questions, and both the coding questions as well. So eventually I did not get the interview call. I'm not sure why did this happen, because I had solved all the questions. But one reason might be that since they were hiring for senior quant dev roles, so I did not, at the moment when I was interviewing for them, so I did not have any trading experience. At DSHA also I used to work in the core engineering department only. And the other thing might be is that WorldCon's bar is very high, so they even usually try to hire IITians only, and even when they are hiring IITians, they keep their bar very high. Some of my friends were telling that they are also looking for trading roles. They are usually looking for people who have cleared or won some kind of math olympiads or those things. So as I said, like, you should not keep your hopes very high. Even after giving all your best, you might not get the interview call, or you might not get ahead in the interviews. So that's it. So now let's see what how does the interview processes look like, what are the questions and the topics which you should be aware about. So usually I have seen that both in TRC and Citadel as well, that one what they do is that they will take 4 or 5 rounds of interview. I mean, it varies company to company. Some company might take only 3 rounds of interview, someone can take 4 or 5, some can take even 8 9 rounds. It varies companies to company. But and what they will do is that like if you compare the interview process of top tech companies with the interview process of HFT firms, so the thing is that let's talk about for fresher roles and for SD1 SD2 roles. So the thing is that for top tech firms, their interview process is defined. I mean, they will ask for freshers, all their interviews will be around data structures and algorithms only. For experienced candidates, there will be some data structure algorithms round, there will be some system design round, there will be some low level design round. So you have to basically focus on these 3 topics only. I mean, everyone who prepares these 3 topics can easily pass their interview. But with HFTs, there is no defined format. I mean, they ask whatever they want to ask. It's like it's on their mood totally. So that's why you should be prepared with everything. So the things which I have mentioned here are only bare minimum. I mean, there is a vast possibility that you might get questions outside of this as well. So that's what another thing to keep in mind, that the interview process is not defined. You should like try to accumulate as much knowledge as possible before appearing for the interviews. And what HFTs basically do is that in every interview they will focus on some particular topic and they try to go deep into that. So let's say if in round 1 they took a data structures and algorithms round, so most probably in other rounds they won't take this round, they will try to focus on other subjects. So the thing is that yeah, you should be good at data structures and algorithms. I mean, that goes without saying, whether you are interviewing for a tech company or for a HFT firm. Okay. And usually, like in TRC and Citadel, I did not face very hard DS algo problems. I mean, they were like medium problems only. I had seen some of those questions before as well. But some of my friends who had interviewed for like Graviton, so they told me that their interview DS algo questions were very hard. I mean, I have never interviewed for Graviton, but this is what I heard from some of my friends, and he was, I think, in IIT BHU. And then there will be a round which will be solely focused on C++. I mean, in C++, they try to check your knowledge in domains like templates. I mean, templates is a most important subject for any HFT interview. I mean, templates are heavily used in production code as well. So you should be very, very good in templates. Then smart pointers. I mean, you should know what is shared PTR, STD shared PTR, and about STD unique PTR. You should also be able to implement the STD unique PTR and STD shared PTR if anyone wants you to. Okay, then you should be very good in STL. I mean, you should know the common STL containers like vectors, unordered map, set, unordered set, STD pair, then there is STD tuple. So these kind of containers you should be aware about. These are like the bare minimum. And then you should be aware about the common algorithms present in STD library as well, like STD accumulate, and there are some binary search algorithms like STD lower bound, STD upper bound. So those STL algorithms you should be definitely be aware about. And apart from that, you should also know like how STD vector, STD string are implemented. I mean, if I come and I ask you to implement the pushback and popback of STD vector, or I ask you to implement your own STD string class, so you should be able to do that. I mean, these are very commonly asked questions. If you cannot solve these questions, then I'm telling you, like, most probably you won't be able to clear the interviews. Then apart from smart pointers, the other things which you should be aware about in C++ is that then comes the like multi-threading part. Usually in multi-threading, so you should be aware about like how multi-threading is done in C++. I mean, there are 2 ways, STD thread and STD async. Then what are the launch policies for STD async? Like, you should be aware about what is STD launch async and STD launch deferred policies. You should be aware about lock-free programming like STD atomics in C++. Then you should be this is mostly about multi-threading. Apart from that, you should be familiar with common C++ design patterns. Like, one design pattern is CRTP, which I have taught a couple of times. You can watch my video on that, curiously recurring template pattern. Apart from that, there are other C++ constructs, like you should know about move semantics, like how if someone asks you to implement the move constructor or move assignment operator, you should be able to do that. You should be aware about that, what does STD move does. So usually there is a misconception that STD move does move construction or move assignment, or basically transfers the ownership, but The thing is that std move is just a casting operator. Okay, it's nothing more than that. It's just a casting operator. It casts an L value to an R value. Then you should be aware about std forward. You should be aware about the perfect forwarding semantics of C++. Then you should be aware about you should be comfortable with object-oriented programming in C++. Like, at least you should know how does constructor destructors work. You should be able to write copy constructor, move constructors, move assignment operators, copy assignment operators. You should be aware about virtual functions, how virtual methods work under the hood, what are the performance, basically how can they slow down performance in your code. Apart from that, you should be aware about inline variables and methods. You should be aware about const expr variables, const expr methods. So these are like very common things in C++, and these are the bare minimum things which I have told you. I mean, there are a lot of other things in C++, like you should be aware about how does reinterpret cast does the things. I mean, and there are a lot of other things as well. I mean, these are, I want to stress on this part that these are just bare minimum. If you don't know these things, you will probably not be able to clear the interviews. So that was mostly about C++. Then there is operating systems. And yeah, one thing more is that I have already made a video on some of the books which you can read to get an understanding around these concepts in C++. You can refer that as well. So then comes operating systems. I mean, then there will be a round which will mostly focus on operating system and Linux. So in operating systems, like another bare minimum things which you should be aware about is like how does processes work under the hood in Linux, what is process control block. You should be aware about memory management schemes like page tables, pagination, virtual. You should be aware about virtual memory. You should know what is thrashing. You should know about, translation look aside buffers, what are TLB misses. You should be aware about caches. You should know things about cache misses and various caching. There are other these kind of policies like least recently used policies, and those things you should be aware about. Then you should know about CPU scheduling. How does CPU does the scheduling of the jobs, the various kind of CPU scheduling algorithms like first come first serve, shortest job first, priority. Then there is round robin algorithms. Like you should also know what how can you specify these. Like there are some particular keywords in Linux which specify these scheduling policies, which you can tell whenever you are launching a process or running a process. Like I think for FCFS, first come first serve, the thing is shed FIFO. It is known as shed FIFO in Unix. You can read about it, scheduling policy. Then there is shed RR policy, shed other policy. So you should know all these things. Then you should be aware about how does like threading and all those things work in under the hood in operating system. Then you should know about deadlocks in operating system, how deadlocks occur, various kind of deadlock resolution schemes and all that. And then there is things around starvation and all. Like if whenever there is preemption of processes running on CPU, then there are possibilities of starvation. So how is starvation prevented? There is one concept of priority inversion in operating system regarding processes, so you should know about that. Then there are synchronization things in operating system, like what are critical section, atomics, mutexes, semaphores. You should be aware about all those things. There is also a concept of monitors in operating system. Usually companies don't ask that, but I don't know, if you're having a bad day, they might ask that as well. So these are again the bare minimum things in operating system. I've made a video where I've described one of the books which you can refer to read all about all these things in operating system. Then there comes computer networks. So again, a very, very important topic, because this is knowledge of computer networks is like crucial to your day-to-day job in HFTs. So in computer networks, you should be very, very good at the 7 layers of OSI model. I mean, you should know about physical layer, data layer, network layer. Then there is transport layer. Whatever happens as usually session layer, presentation layer is not much important, but then and the application layer is where everyone codes only. And so the 2 layers which are, or I should say the 3 layers which are very important are like data layer, network layer, and transport layer. So in transport layer, you should be aware about the transport layer protocols like TCP protocol, UDP protocol. What are the differences between them? In which scenario you should be able to make the trade-offs between what kind of protocol you should use based on your use case. These are very, very important. Then there are a lot of other things in TCP. You should know about sockets. How does sockets work under the hood? What what is the meaning of when someone says that bind a socket, connect a socket, what are blocking sockets, what are not non-blocking sockets. All those things are very important. Then you should be comfortable with the concepts of IPs and what does IPv4 address mean, the subnets and subnet masks and all those things. On Ethernet layer, you should, and most important thing is that at least you should also know the headers of these, like how does the header of Ethernet packet looks like, how does the header of IP packet looks like, what does the header of TCP packet or UDP packet looks like. Then there are concepts of MTU and MSS. You should be aware about that. MTU is basically maximum transmission unit, I think, and MSS is maximum segment size. These are all related to layer 2 and layer 3, layer 4 protocols. You should, so again, these are the bare minimum things. Usually companies ask questions based on their application. Then comes the computer architecture part. So in computer architecture, again, there are a lot of things you should know about. You should have a basic understanding about CPUs, their clock cycles, the CPU registers, RAMs, cache hierarchy. Like the cache in your computer is usually hierarchical. Like I have this Acer Predator laptop, so based on what kind of processor is embedded in my computer, so the cache is dependent on that. I mean, usually the cache is hierarchical, like you will have an L1 cache, L2 cache, and then there will be a L3 cache. So whenever the CPU tries to do access, so it doesn't directly go to RAM, it first checks it in the L1 cache, then it will check in the L2 cache. If it is not present in the L2 cache, then it will go to L3 cache. If it does not find that item in L3 cache, then it will go to RAM, and then it will also update your caches as well. So you should know about these. Then even in caches, they are like L1 cache is divided into data cache and instruction cache. Same goes for L2 and L3 cache as well. So you should be aware about all those things. You should know about cache coherency, cache associativity, and all and everything. I mean, caches are very, very important. Then there are concepts of instruction pipelining. Like you should be aware about how does your fetch, decode, and execute instructions work. How do they work in? So instruction pipelining describes how do they work in parallel. You should know about vector processing. Then you should at least have a basic understanding of how does different components of computer interact with each other. Like there is RAM, there is CPU, registers, there is input output devices, your network devices. So how do they, like let's say there is you typed some particular key on your, you press some particular key on your keyboard, and then how, let's say I pressed N, then how that N is transferred to my CPU, like how does it end up in the RAM, or how does it end up in the CPU register. So you should know about like how your input output devices, your RAM and this thing registers are connected via PCI bus, and how interrupt is generated, and based on that how data is transferred and all those things. So you should know about software hardware interrupts. Like again, interrupts are very, very important from computer architecture perspective. And I think there are a couple of more things which I do not have at top of my head, but yeah, mostly these are again the bare minimum things only. You can read about computer architecture subjects. I mean, usually for computer architecture, computer networks and operating system, your coursework material in college is usually enough. I mean, again, it depends on how your college teaches these subjects, or even some colleges in computer science don't even teach some of these subjects, which is like, I don't know why do they do that. These are like at most important subjects for computer science students. But if you're an IIT, then I think you are safe. I mean, I have seen some of the IIT lectures on these subjects, and they were pretty good. But even if you are not in IIT, or you do not have these kind of access to these resources, or they do not teach these in your college, you can refer some resources on Coursera. And I think I had also pasted somewhere, talked about a book on computer architecture. Let me find this. Again, you can refer this book. Yeah, this book, Computer Architecture, M. Morris Mano. I think this is the book they used to teach in my college. And I think even in my college, they did not teach these subjects, computer architecture, computer networks and operating system, very great. I mean, the teachers, they did not do a very great job. I mean, they did not explain those things very well. It was just like copy pasting notes. But again, one thing which everyone should understand, that we are at a stage of life where we cannot blame others, that you are not doing a good job in teaching me, or I'm not able to understand what you are teaching. We are at a stage where we are supposed to do all this work ourselves. I mean, we cannot rely on anyone that they will teach us this subject, then only we will study and all those things. Okay, you got to do the hard work yourself, because ultimately it will be your loss only if you don't do, or basically don't study these subjects. That is the thing. And other thing is that there was a person who recently commented on my video, and I think I want to highlight uh, her comment. I'm not sure if it's he or she, but judging by the name Anna Wilson, I think it's she. But I'm really sorry, Anna, if I messed up the pronoun. But anyways, the thing is that she has mentioned that there are other subjects, and she is also absolutely right. Like, you should also know about cache and kernel optimization. I mean, what happens inside the kernel, these are important things, and what does the compiler does and does not do under the hood. Again, these two are very, very important topics. I mean, Anna is absolutely right in highlighting this. And again, as I said, like, the subjects, whichever subjects or concepts which are related to optimizing your software at a micro level, because to achieve a microsecond or nanosecond latency, you need to do a lot of micro optimizations. So these are all micro optimizations, like kernel, the things she has mentioned, kernel and cache optimization, and what does the compiler does and does not do under the hood. So these are very, very important. So I think that was mostly it for this particular video. I think I might be forgetting something, but I think I covered most of them. Yeah, again, one thing is that I forgot about this, that for trading rules, they ask a lot of questions, a lot of probability and puzzles, and a lot of logical reasoning questions. Okay, and permutation, combination, and binomial theorems are very important. Again, like, one of the very commonly asked question is this, which involves the concept of permutation, combination, and binomial theorem. Like, this question is that x1, you have to find the number of non-negative solutions of this equation, x1 plus x2 plus x3 is equal to n. Okay, and in fact, the general version is something like this, xr. The question might be that you have to find a non-negative solution, or even the number of positive solutions for this particular equation. And then there are probability questions as well. Like, for example, I had posted one of the question asked by Kuna. You can also basically read this particular question and see how you can solve it. So these are the things. Again, I want to highlight that all of these are bare minimum things. There are a lot of other things which they might ask, because as I said, they do not have any definite interview procedure. I mean, HFTs ask whatever they want to ask based on the kind of business problem they solve, the kind of the kind of low level optimizations they do. They want the people who actually understand those optimizations and can do that, because they do not have, usually these firms do not have time to teach you all of these things from scratch, because like, there are some opportunities in the market which you want to capture very quickly to make money. So you cannot afford to wait and basically hire the kind of people who would take a lot of time to get trained. So I think that was mostly it I had for this video. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you all next time.